Welcome to Business Pulse Talk Radio, the heartbeat of business. I'm your host, Michael Brett. We have an exciting show here today, as always. But a very special guest, Robert Sanchez. He's the Chief Technology Officer for appTech. It's a company based in San Diego, California. And we're going to be talking about blockchain. We're going to be talking about crypto payments, currencies. We're going to be talking about appTech's patented technology for a variety of mobile payments technology. A little bit beyond my pay grade, but I have been involved with the company. Just for full disclosure, I'm a shareholder of the company. I've been involved with them since about 2013. So, Robert, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Just for a foundation for our listeners, what is appTech?
Sure. appTech is a public company. It's on a pink sheet, so we're kind of what people call a penny stock. appTech's fundamental business is what we call financial technology, which is, in a very boring way, called credit card processing. That's what it is, debit card processing. So we're the guys that take, 0.5% off any processing, and we work with major banks, and we work with the Treasury Department to be able to pass money around. That's fundamentally what it is. We're kind of a toll collector. That's what we are.
And your involvement with appTech, what is your position, and what do you do for the company?
So my title is Chief Technology Officer. What appTech did a few years ago was actually buy my company, the assets of my company, Global Tel Media. Global Tel Media was a technology firm that held patents on text messaging. So it's interesting. If you ever receive a text message from your favorite retailer or your restaurant that's a 5 or 6 digit code, Global Tel owned that patent. And if the same text message from them, you were able to reply to it, that we own that patent too. And then finally, if you embed a URL or hyperlink in that same text message, that was our patent. But something that tied it in very closely with appTech, appTech being a fintech firm, is we have a fourth patent, which is mobile payments. So that's using messaging to authenticate and verify and transact any mobile payments.
Explain that a little more from a non-technical standpoint so that I can understand it and some of our listeners who are not techies. How does that go? If I want to send you $200, how do I do that?
That's a great question to ask. So the very easiest way to describe it is you would say, set up a text message to what we call a specific short code, a 5-digit message, and I would type in that message box, pay Mike. And what would happen? Well, you would get a text message because it's unique to you saying, hey, Robert wants to pay you some money. Is that okay? And you'd say, okay. Then the system would say, how much do you want to pay Mike, Robert? And I'd put an amount. And then it'd come back and ask you, please enter in your secure code. In other words, what we call multi-factor authentication. One of the quick backgrounds on me is I was working for NSA, a famous company back on the East Coast, that we were using certain protocols to authenticate users. So in this particular case, we've adapted it using text messaging where you would reply, strange enough, just a 3-letter code that would authenticate you who you are, verify the fact that you had a wallet online somewhere, and that we would transact the payment for you. So it's that simple. It's a 3-message text to say, pay Mike, how much, put in your code, it's authorized.
And it goes into a so-called online wallet. That's where it doesn't go into a bank account. It goes into this wallet?
Well, that's correct. It can go onto your wallet. It could go onto a bank account. Okay. So, for example, one way to describe it is that PayPal already has an online wallet. We would integrate our text messaging platform to their wallet so that it would go in and verify, in fact, that you have a PayPal account and they are authorized to pay for it.
So people with an existing PayPal account then could use appTech's technology to receive payments.
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly what you got. It's that straightforward, that simple. You kind of think, why, Robert? You got Venmo out there. You got so many other companies doing stuff.
That was going to be my question about, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I'm a little bit bullish on, because I come from the wireless industry, is that in the United States, we have about a 60% penetration of internet use on mobile phones. That's what it is. Maybe people will say 65, 70. Someone throws out a number out there randomly out there nowadays. The trouble is that there's anywhere from up to 40% of the people do not have mobile internet, can't download an application on their phone. So these companies like Venmo, like PayPal, Bank of America, Zelle, all these other companies, they gave up 40% of the market. That's a silly thing to do. Very silly thing to do. So now if you're able to extend text payments to these people, which guess what? Every cell phone in the world, all 6 billion of them, do two things. They make phone calls and they send and receive text messages. Now you've opened up your addressable market to 6 billion plus cell phones globally, not the ones that are limited. The internet penetration on the mobile is about 25% today globally. So that means you've opened up the market to 75% more people to process payments with.
People using their cell phone for that purpose.
Exactly.
So in countries, third world countries or, impoverished countries, let's say Africa or certain, sectors of the world who really don't have internet access, but they have cell phone reception.
Exactly.
I'm trying to make this understandable to, again, people that are not technology oriented. So if they have a cell phone and access to a cell phone, they can transact financial transactions. They can send and receive money.
Right, to individuals, to companies, to whatever you want to. And certainly, I don't want to mislead people. You do have to set up some kind of account online to be able to have some currency available to trade. No question about that. And the other person has to have the same type of an account, too. This has actually been very, very successful in Kenya. You brought up Africa. Text payments are huge in Africa. They've set it up so that the same people that sell SIM cards that put load on phones, if you're familiar with that, are the same people that are the banks. So there are over 9,000 people out there that you can text a message to, and they would give you cash for it. So it's very, very successful in Kenya. Again, the idea here is to reach everyone and to make it available anywhere you want to. Most countries are still developing. You look at the bigger countries like India, you look at Pakistan, you look at China. A lot of them cannot afford mobile wireless internet on their cell phones. They don't have smartphones. They're buying load every week. This allows them to do it. And in most countries around the world, other than the United States, sending a text message and receiving one is free. So it's a vehicle that opens up the opportunity to lots of people.
Yeah, so how does this compare to or the competition with somebody like a Western Union that's been known for decades for sending and receiving money for people inside the country, outside the country? Is Western Union a competitor, or would they be using your technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. They would supplement their current processes to use text messaging to be able to process payments. We're going to white label it, so Western Union can call it their Western Union text payments. We don't need to have our label on it. So the importance is that they're able to do it. MoneyGram can do that. Certainly you brought up a lot of money remittance out there. A lot of those people are sending money back home. And they would love to be able to do it with text messaging. And that's really another vehicle for companies like those money remittance companies to send it. Even companies like PayPal, they don't have text messaging payments. Imagine if you said text PayPal and put your name on it. PayPal would be able to extend their ability to reach a market that they don't currently have today.
And you have patents on this technology, so how is appTech going out and reaching out to companies like Western Union or MoneyGram or companies like that? Are you doing an outreach program to try to white label it with them, or where does that stand?
So we work with a lot of different partners to see how we can do this. And so we're kind of more of a reseller model when it comes underneath that. Certainly we would love to approach these companies and offer our technology to them to use. But we're looking at other companies that want to be able to reach in this marketplace that don't have it today. As we mentioned, we're a fintech company. We have hundreds of vendors that use our payment processing. We're letting them test it out initially to say, let's give you your text processing payments for free. What do we get? We charge a little bit off the back end to be able to process those payments for them. So what we want to do is build up slowly to do this stuff and make sure that our intellectual property is well protected. That's critical to us to be able to do this stuff. But to take it a little bit in an interesting twist for you here, Mike, we had talked earlier about the cannabis industry. It's interesting.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Cannabis is an interesting industry. We call it unbanked. and they're limited today. Right now, it's federally against the law federally to be able to process any payments. So the states are wondering, well, we're allowing it in the states. How do we resolve this issue? Well, one of the thoughts that we have at appTech is that we would create a TEX currency. In other words, dollar for dollar deposit as TEX dollar would be equivalent to $1. We would be able to collect that money from these particular cannabis companies or any unbanked industry, process it, and put it as TEX currency. Why is that important? Well, every state wants to collect the excise taxes on this stuff. Every state wants to collect payroll taxes on this stuff. They're losing that money. So the states are very supportive in the fact of creating a TEX currency state by state so that they could process the payments, they can get the taxes they need to do, and these people, these industries that are unbanked, can spend their money within the state. The TEX currency could never go state to state. It would never do interstate because that's illegal. But it would remain intrastate to do the stuff. So we're working very closely with the Treasury and other groups to be able to provide all the regulations necessary to be able to collect that cash, make a proper deposit into a bank, a state bank, and to be able to transact it where you need to, and everyone wins.
So let's say a California dispensary. A lot of them, not just in California, but a lot of dispensaries or almost anybody involved with cannabis, as you mentioned, they open a bank account and 2 weeks later it's closed because the bank finds out what the company's actually up to. So what you're saying is with your TEX currency, a dispensary, if somebody goes in and spends $1,000 for weed, that dispensary then could do TEX currency and get it on deposit someplace. Right.
So we would work with a state authorized bank, not a federally authorized bank. So we're working with many different state banks that would they would accept the deposit of that cash, process it into the bank, and then they would create a TEX currency that they could use to make payroll, make any kind of tax payments on it. That's what the government wants to do. And if you think a little bit ahead, maybe, I don't know, maybe the federal government will one day approve cannabis federally. Well, guess what? Now the infrastructure, the regulatory, all the audit process will be in place through having this TEX currency that would trade within the state. It could never trade anywhere else. So that limits it and protects them from going interstate. Keeping it intrastate really protects the cannabis industry, it protects the bank, and it does what the state wants to create tax revenues.
Excellent. You're listening to Business Pulse Talk Radio, the heartbeat of business. I'm your host, Michael Brett. I have with me today a very special guest, Robert Sanchez, who's the Chief Technology Officer for a publicly traded company called appTech, and the stock symbol is APCX. And they're based in Carlsbad, California. Everybody's heard about BlockChain. I mean, if you turn on Fox News or any financial news station, pick up the Wall Street Journal, or even, I guess, go to the internet, you'll see BlockChain. How does appTech's technology figure into blockchain technology, or does it?
That's a great question, Mike, and it's important to step back a little bit and describe what blockchain is and what blockchain isn't. I kind of look at blockchain as unfortunately closely tied to cryptocurrency, and it shouldn't be. Blockchain is an authentication method. It's a protocol. It's a handshake that verifies that data online is passed along without any modification. Now, let me put it more in layman's terms. It's a handshake. And when you and I look at each other in the eye, I know you're Mike, you know I'm Robert. We shake each other's hands, and we know that, oh yeah, you are who you are. Now, how do you do that virtually? How do you guarantee that person on the other side is who they are, or that the data that you're passing along is real? It hasn't been changed. It hasn't been altered in any way. That's what blockchain is. Blockchain is the front end to crypto, but it can be the front end to many things. Blockchain, many industries, particularly the shipping and cargo industries, are using it because imagine how many times a package changes hands going from, say, China to Italy. it changes hands constantly. Now, you want to make sure that that manifest stays in place, that no one's changing it, no one's adapting it, the addressee, who it's going to. So blockchain is more important for when you come to virtual trading of information. So that's very important. So once you understand that blockchain is a handshake protocol, a verification, a validation, a certification method of information online, then you go, well, okay, Robert, that's great, but what does that mean to me as a user? Well, there's different ways to access it. We look at it again. We're using text messaging to be able to do that authentication. That multi-factor authentication is how we're implementing, if you want to call it, quote, a text messaging-based blockchain protocol. Because of our patents, our ability to be able to embed URLs, to include rich content and media, we're able to use a blockchain-like protocol to protect our text payments. That's what we're trying to do.
So blockchain really is not a cryptocurrency or a Bitcoin or something. I mean, everybody seems to connect those two together as one and the same. Blockchain is a cryptocurrency. What you're saying is they're basically two separate technologies, but a cryptocurrency uses blockchain.
That's correct. It's a good way to do it. I kind of started thinking about analogies. We think about white bread, and you got to slice it. Well, those knives that cut it exactly into half-inch slices, don't care if it's bread, don't care if it's sausage, don't care if it's anything. In a strange way, blockchain is exactly that. It's a bunch of knives. It cuts it a certain way, guarantees the quality of it, the size of it, the integrity of it. That's what blockchain is. It'll cut anything. And you could look at it for healthcare. You could look at it for education. You could look at it for law enforcement. You could look at it many different ways. But we got to be able to understand. We've got to transition. Now, what's interesting is most executives in these major corporations today, I'll use IBM as one of them, are recognizing that blockchain is very important to protect their online business, the virtual certification and validation and authentication of data online. That's what's important to them. That's why you see these big companies investing in it. They're not investing in it for crypto. They're investing on it to protect all their online transactions, their handshakes, their data, everything. And that's what's very important to be able to understand.
How does appTech make money? with all this important thing for shareholders, investors, how do you guys make money?
Yeah, so remember, we just process payments. We're that boring commodity firm that does that stuff. But guess what? Opening it up to text currency and 6 billion people, our plans are to license our text payment processes to as many people as we can. And if we can collect, 50 basis points, 25 basis points, something really small with every transaction, that's where we're going to make money. We're toll collectors. Imagine, for example, if I remember the statistics right, Amazon, for example, processed, I think, back in 2016, $4 trillion worth of payments. Imagine if we were able to say, hey, guess what, Amazon, let's give you the text payment capability, process that. And we were to take, a 0.1% of that processing. appTech makes a lot of money. And so there's the ability to do that. If we extend that a little further, certainly our payment processing is very important to us. Our protection security is very important for it. But we also, because of text messaging, are building a huge database of consumer propensity, consumer actions, consumer desires. And that information is very valuable when it comes to trying to target the right people out there. So part of the business is to give that away for free. You come in, license our text payment technology from us, we're going to give you the ability to generate your own leads, to market to people, to provide first responder warnings, anything you want to with text messaging today. And so that's really what our plans are. We'll give away our text messaging for free in exchange for processing your payment for you securely.
So the revenue model is licensing technology, getting a royalty from licensing it to to companies rather than appTech using it themselves and trying to get into that particular segment. You just want to license it. Let's say, again, to Amazon.
Sure. The licensing is the primary method to do this, but we see when we were talking about the unbanked industries, appTech feels that we have to get into that ourselves. That's important to do. So we will be focusing on being the leader when it comes to that type of industry, those industries where it's very cash only, to be able to process it. So appTech will provide the leadership there. But remember, we will process the payment on the back end. We'll work with the banks and the Treasury Department to collect tolls along the way to process that payment. So, if with every dollar spent, if we're able to collect, say, a tenth of a cent on every dollar spent, that's all the revenue we're going to be generating. And that's a lot of revenue when you start processing billions and billions of dollars a year.
How do you get to the unbanked sector? Do you have to go work through institutions that want to get that business themselves and work through them to get those leads, or do you have a way of getting to the unbanked individuals or companies?
Wow, that's a really hard question to answer, because as you well know, the big industries want to be able to get a bigger part of this unbanked industry. And working with them to do regulations is interesting. A lot of these independents are trying to hang in there. So it is a very difficult task right now today, is to go almost door to door to these individual dispensaries and farms and supply companies to say, hey, we have this opportunity for you to do this right there on your site, to be able to handle it there. So it's almost a two-edged sword. You have to go prepare for these big industries potentially taking them over, and still go to the small industries to offer it to them as well. So, and we're starting to find things in between as well. So many different industries out there. We talk about cash also, from the horse racing industry to casinos. You look at a new thing called Kratom that people are trying to do some business with. You see supplements, lots of different things out there that need an ability to be able to put their money somewhere and know it's secure, instead of putting it in backpacks and paying for vaults to holding all this stuff. So we do have to go after individual companies as well as these bigger corporations representing them.
Give us your contact information so that our audience out there, maybe they're in the unbanked business, or maybe they're in the payment processing business, they want to get in touch with you, talk about your technology. Give us the best contact information for appTech.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to go online and send us a message at apptechcorp.com, or I'm not afraid to put my email out there. It's rsanchez@apptechcorp.com. More than happy to take email from anyone that sends it to me.
Okay, so appTech is APPTECH. That's the company, appTech, and their stock symbol, APCX, and it's an over-the-counter stock. Let's talk about that, for instance. Your OTC Pink right now, what's in the mix to get an uplisting to NASDAQ or a larger exchange?
That's a good question. Our plans are to register with the SEC and become uplisted on the appropriate exchange. We're working with a lot of big companies, a lot of private equity firms and other money market managers to prepare us for that. So right now we're completing our audits, we're completing our tax forms, we're doing all the necessary for the registration, and we're excited. We believe we'll successfully be able to uplist and be completely registered with the SEC before the end of this year. So we're really excited about that. And certainly it takes capital. We are looking for some investment money in that, and we have some very big firms helping us to do that, some New York-based firms, some Texas-based firms, to be able to help us raise some capital to launch this stuff.
And how much capital are you trying to raise?
Right now, anywhere from $5 million to $10 million. It depends on the partnership. For example, an example of the unbanked industry, if we're able to find the right partner to invest into us, then we don't need to open up a bunch of kiosks somewhere to collect that cash, or the bank. So if we do have to, then we'll need closer to $10 million. If we don't have to, then closer to the $5 million. So it depends on the partnerships to do that we'll look for that investment money.
On that capital raise, you're looking for partners to partner up with for or are you just looking for equity investors to come in and offer some cash in exchange for stock in the company?
It's a little bit of both. We're pretty flexible when it comes into that. We're talking to a few firms out there that already are in the payment processing business and loan business, and that they already have these retail shops and kiosks all around. And rethrottling them would save us, millions of dollars to have to deploy ourselves. But at the same time, we'll be able to give them discounts when it comes to processing their payments because we have our own bins with the Treasury Department. So we're looking for private equity, I think, with the right firms that have portfolio companies that recognize the value of text messaging to reach all these consumers everywhere in the world and see an opportunity to go international, not just here in the United States, but to grow. I think that's a great opportunity. Companies that recognize that processing payments is where we're going to go and using text messaging, but more importantly, to use the authentication system that we're using, I'll call it the blockchain equivalent, that they can use within their own industries as well in portfolio companies.
So with appTech's technology is text messaging, text authentication, and text payments, do you think at some point in the near future or the distant future that this method of payment and sending currencies might just replace the standard banking system that we have?
Wow, big question. I laugh a little bit about that. The short answer to that question is no. We'll never be able to replace the current institutions today. But what we do need to do is supplement them. And that's really what we are. We're a supplemental technology to reach more of the marketplace than they have today. And that's what our goal is.
You're listening to my very special guest, Robert Sanchez, who is the Chief Technology Officer of appTech. That's AppTech. It's a company based in Carlsbad, California. And you can contact Robert at his email address, which is rsanchez@apptechcorp.com. Is there a telephone number that if people want to call instead of emailing, your number on your card? Is that
the number on the card? The general number is the easiest way to do that. I wouldn't want to give out my cell phone number.
No. I'm just saying the general. Is that the office number? Is that the general?
The 760 number that'd be perfect.
Okay,
you can give that one out.
Telephone number for appTech corporate office is area code 760-707-5959, extension 311. And that's the direct line to the office, and they can send you some information. Probably the best way, though, with today's day and age technologies, email, and that's rsanchez@apptechcorp.com. Any final thoughts you'd like to give to our guests? We just have maybe a minute or two before we have to sign off.
Yeah, Mike, I think you touched on something very interesting. We were talking earlier, how do you bridge that gap between text and payments and then throw blockchain in that mix? I think there's a tremendous opportunity for additional dialogue and digging a little bit deeper on what blockchain really means to us as individuals in industry. I think blockchain is a formidable authentication system that has barely been tapped into today. And I think there's a great opportunity to have real good discussions on how that affects every industry that we have, from hospitality, as I mentioned, to healthcare, retail, you name it. I think there's an opportunity to do that. And I think appTech will provide a lot of leadership there to make it simple. Keep it very simple rather than overcomplicate it.
And what's the process for getting that information, not just about appTech's technology, but getting the blockchain information out so people can understand it better and adapt it to whatever business they're trying to do? Is it conferences, seminars, online? Again, I listen to Fox, read the Wall Street Journal. I see articles, about it, but what would be the best way?
I think you said it all, Mike. Honestly, I think there should be conferences. I think there should be online discussions and dialogue. It's unfortunate that the media today connects the two, and someone needs to be bold enough to step out there and say, stop that. So that's, podcasts. There you go. Thank you. So tremendous opportunities to continue to do this, to build up the online listening base, because, of course, through podcasts, people can hear it over and over again and recognize the fact that, wow, there's something different here. What do we do? And, challenging a lot of the developers out there to continue to extend it further and make it smarter, better, faster. But to me, keep it simple. You got to keep it simple. We can't have, in the old days, a Cray computer processing all this stuff. We need to be able to do it simple and protected.
So, while you were saying that, I was thinking, is there an app, a blockchain app out there that people can download, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so maybe appTech could develop an app.
That's definitely a possibility. You will be able to see this on the multi-factor authentication implementation through our text payment system. No question about that. And we've written a lot of the algorithms associated with this, and there's a lot of hashing algorithms, so many different implementations of it to protect the user. But that's a great suggestion, Mike. We will take that under consideration.
Okay. Again, we're going to wrap up our show here today. A very special guest here has been Robert Sanchez from appTech Corp., based in Carlsbad, California. And Robert's email address for further information is rsanchez@apptechcorp.com. That's APPTECH Corp, CORP.com. Their main corporate office number is area code 760-707-5959, extension 311. Again, appTech, and it's a publicly traded company, and the stock symbol is APCX. Robert, I want to thank you for coming in, and we're going to have you back on the show here in other episodes so we can kind of continue this conversation on blockchain and the technology that appTech is developing and furthering text payments to individuals in not only the United States but around the world.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to another episode of Business Pulse Radio, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.